So the cost of installing a swimming pool is rising exponentially according to the formula this. What's the original cost? Well, you can probably fairly easily see the original cost is when n equals 0. So we've got C equals 6,000 times 1.03 to the 0. The 1.03 to the 0, what is that? Well, it's 1. So we've just got C equals $6,000. Whenever you've got a question like this, you can always, the initial cost is always just the first number, okay? So the cost on January 2016, so this is n equals 1, C equals 6,000 times 1.03 to the 1. Calculator. 6,180. Okay, 1st of January 2020, n equals 5. C equals 6,000 times 1.03 to the 5, which is... and the nearest $10, well, it's 6955.64, but they've said to the nearest $10, this is closer to 6,960 than 6,950. 60. Okay. 1st of January, 1st of July, so that's n equals a half. So C equals 6,000 times 1.03 to the... It's going to be easy to put in our calculators as 0.5. So that's, to the nearest $10, it's $6,090. 1st of July 2018, so that's n equals 3.5, 3.5 years. C equals 6,000 times 1.03 to the 3.5. Let's do it. 6, and it's closer to $50 than 60. All right, these next ones, not too difficult because they've given us actual values for x and y. So we know this is the same as 16 to the half plus 25 to the half. 16 to the half, that's the square root of 16, that's 4. 25 to the half is 5, so we get 9. 16 to the 3 on 4 minus 25 to the half. It's the same as 16 to the 1 on 4 to the 3 minus 25 to the half. So the 4th root of 16 is 2, so we've got 2 cubed minus 25 to the half, 5. So we've got 8 minus 5, so it's 3. Okay, 16 to the negative a half minus 25 to the negative a half. So it's 1 on 16 to the half minus 1 on 25 to the half. Sorry, technically these halves should be going... What's the square root of 1? 1. What's the square root of 16? 4. Minus, what's the square root of 1? 1. Square root of 25? 5. A quarter minus a fifth. Cross multiply. We're going to end up with 5 minus 4 over 5 times 4. So it's going to come out as 120. Question D. Oh, I only asked you to do every second, didn't I? No, I asked you to do all of it. Did I? All of it. Good practice. So we've got 25 minus 16 to the half times 4 times 25 to the minus a half. So this is the same as 9 to the half times, now that's 4 times 25, that's 100 to the minus a half. So that's 3 times 1 on 100 to the half. So it's 3 times 1 on, now 100 to the half is 10, so it's 3/10. Next question. Now we're only doing every second one of these. So we're going to do A, C, E, G, and I. All right, A. So we've got 3 times 3 times x to the half plus half times y to the 1 plus 2 gives us 9x to the 1, y to the 3. Don't write the 1. C. Okay, now this is the same as 1 on 8 times 24 times s to the 2.5 plus negative 2. 1 on 8 times 24, that's 3. S to the 2.5, take 2, a half. And they've asked us to leave it in index form, so it's literally just that. E. So we've got a to the half minus negative a half, because it's divided. B to the half minus a half. So half minus negative a half is 1. So we've got a to the 1, b to the 0. So it's just a. Because anything to the 0 is 1. And anything times 1, you don't bother. All right, now we raise everything to what's outside in the bracket of the bracket. So we've got 8 to the third, x cubed times a third, y to the minus 6 times a third. And technically 8 was 1 times a third. So we've got 8 to the third. What is the cubed root of 8? It's 2. X to the 3 times a third is 1. Y to the negative 6 times a third, negative 2. Don't bother writing the 1, but we do bother writing the rest of the x. And finally, I. So we've got x to the 3/4 times 4 times x to the 4/3 times 3, which 3/4 times 4 is 3. 4/3 times 3 is 4, 7. That's 13. Okay, a few more for this video. Cranking through them. So this is the same as root x to the negative 1, isn't it? Which means it's x to the half to the negative 1. So it's x to the negative a half. Now this is just 12 times x to the negative a half. So it's 12x to the negative a half. That half, negative half, only belongs to the x, not to the 12. If it had belonged to the 12 as well, there would have been brackets. Oh, we're only doing every second. Ugh, this is killing me. So we've got negative 5 times x to the negative half, negative 5x to the negative half. This time we've got negative 4 times the cubed root of x squared to the negative 1. Now this is negative 4 times x squared to the third. Yeah? Which means we've got negative 4 times x, and we're going to multiply 2, a third, and negative 1. And that gives us negative 2/3. We just don't bother writing the multiply, so let's move this over. There we go. Okay, this time we have 5 times x root x to the negative 1, which means we've got 5 times x to the half to the negative 1, and this is x to the 1, which means we've got 5 times x to the 1 plus a half, 3 on 2, to the negative 1, which means we've got 5x to the negative 3 on 2. One more question for this video. And it's index equations. We're finally getting into the meaty stuff. So let's do it. Question A. we've got 49 to the x equals 1 on 7. This is the same as, well, 49 is 7 squared, and 1 on 7 is 7 to the minus 1. So we've got 7 to the 2x equals 7 to the minus 1, so 2x equals minus 1, x equals negative 1 on 2. They're not too bad, hey? You just have to get them to the same base. 8 to the x equals 4. Now, most people's problem with this question is they're going to try and get them both to base 4. The problem is 4 times whatever is never going to end up as 8. We're going to have to take them both to base 2. So we've got 2 cubed to the x equals 2 squared. So this is 2 to the 3x equals 2 squared. So 3x equals 2, equating the indices, x equals 2 on 3. Question E, 4 to the x equals 8. So this one's really similar. We've got 4 to the x equals 8, which means 2 squared to the x equals 2 cubed. So 2 to the 2x equals 2 to the 3. 2x equals 3. X equals 3 on 2. E, F, G. 81 to the x equals 27. Now, what do you think we're going to choose as our base? It's not going to be 9 because you're not going to get 27 from 9 times whatever. It's going to have to be 3. So this is 3 to the 4 to the x equals 3 cubed, which means 3 to the 4x equals 3 to the 3. 4x equals 3. X equals 3 on 4. And next I've got HI. So this time we've got 1 on 25 to the x equals 5. Now I'm going to want both of these base 5, but I need to get rid of the fractiony bit first. So this is the same as 25 to the minus 1 to the x equals 5. This is 25 to the minus x equals 5. This is 5 squared to the minus x equals 5. So 5 to the minus 2x, so 2 times negative x, is 5 to the 1. So now we can say negative 2x equals 1, x equals negative 1/2. And that's the last one for this video.